This is approximately a 5-minute video on clarinet maintenance and some good practices to use when playing clarinet. First thing we're going to talk about is just putting your instrument together properly. You'll notice I'm pushing down the ring finger on my upper barrel of the clarinet in order to lift the bridge key. That way I can squeeze the two parts of the clarinet together, the upper joint and the lower joint, and the bridge key will float over the bottom. If you don't press that key down, you're going to take a chance that you're going to mangle it and you're going to bend that key. So always make sure that you press that down, putting it together, then line up your keys. There you can see the bridge key right there. Then I'm going to put on the bell. Now if you find that it goes together kind of difficult, you can put a little bit of cork grease on there. You don't need a ton of cork grease, just a little bit. That'll lubricate it and allow it to fit together a little bit nicer. Feel free to use the cork grease on all of your tenon joints if you need to. Now I'm going to put the top two pieces of the instrument together, the mouthpiece and the barrel, the two smallest pieces of the instrument. And I'm going to show you how to put the reed on properly. When you put the reed on, it should be lined up like so, and you should be able to see just a little bit of the black plastic above it, the top of the mouthpiece. Then I'm going to carefully slide the ligature over. And this is an old-fashioned ligature. A lot of people have the inverted ligatures. This is an older one. And then there's ligature lines that are kind of engraved on most mouthpieces. And your ligature should fit between those two lines. Now that I've got that tightened up, I can put the mouthpiece and the barrel on my instrument, and I'm ready to go. When I'm done playing the instrument, it's very, very important to swab the instrument out. A lot of moisture will get in there, and moisture can do a lot of damage to your instrument. Moisture will make the pads wet, and then in turn they'll dry out, and they'll get wet, and they'll dry out, and they'll keep going through that process, and they'll start to get very hard, and then the pads won't seal very well. So the process of swabbing out your instrument, well, it may take a 30 seconds or a minute when you're done playing. It's time really well spent. When you put it through, make sure that the swab isn't knotted up. Pull it through. And we can put the instrument back in the case. And one other thing I wanted to show you is, when you're putting your instrument together or you're taking it apart, you don't want to twist it back and forth too far because there's other keys there that can get mangled too. We talked about the bridge key before, but if you go too far, some of those other pinky keys can really get bent. So be careful to just twist in small motions. Now I'm going to put my reed away, and you'll notice that I'm putting my reed in a reed guard, and I have one of the reed guards that holds 4 reeds. It's a really good idea to have 3 or 4 working reeds at all time. That way if one breaks, you can pull out another one. And reeds are funny. Sometimes on certain days a reed won't work very well, and then on the next day the same reed that didn't work yesterday works great today. Now you'll notice I'm going to go to my mouthpiece and barrel, and I'm going to swab that out as well. Make sure that that's nice and dry before I put that away. Going to run that through a couple times, and then I'll put my mouthpiece and barrel back in the case. Now speaking of your case, your clarinet case is meant to hold your clarinet. But you got to be careful because if there's a lot of stuff in your clarinet, you're going to notice that this person's clarinet has got books and all kinds of stuff in there. Well, the problem with that is when you put all that stuff in that spot, even though it's kind of intended to be a little book holder, now what happens is that When you go to close the clarinet, it's actually pushing down a part of the clarinet. Look at that. It's a good half an inch above there. So you want to make sure that you don't allow that to happen. Don't store a whole bunch of books in there. If you can fit one in there without damaging your clarinet or pushing down, that's wonderful. Next, before we leave you, we want to show you just a few problems that can happen with a clarinet. Here's a pad on a clarinet that's gotten so dried out and kind of beat up that you can actually see a layer of cellophane that is no longer on there. Part of the pad is actually falling apart. Here's another pad that's actually, it looks like it's kind of been eaten by something. That's a very unusual thing. Pads are something that you don't want to try and replace. Let an instrument repair person do it. Sometimes your band director can do it, but don't try and get involved in repairs. Um, there's one other thing that happens with clarinets. I'm going to take a spring off just to show you. Springs do come off of instruments occasionally. Here's a spring that I've taken off on purpose to show you. If you have a spring that comes off your instrument and you see it, just let it be. Bring it into have your band director put it on. Sometimes you can do more damage than you know by trying to fix it on your own.